Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society bringing you our nightly update. Allow me to start off this live stream with the announcement that starting tomorrow, we will increase our live stream coverage. I will be going live at least 2 times tomorrow, maybe 3 times. Our first live stream will be tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. Our second live stream will be 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. And our potential third live stream, depending on whether we have an advisory for a potential tropical cyclone or a melda, we are going to reserve the time of 10:45 p.m. for a late night breakdown of any information that may come from the NHC. So, due to the threat and the increased threat here of 94L, future Imelda, we will be picking up our live stream coverage starting tomorrow. All right, let's jump right in. Now, I am going to cover Gabrielle very quickly. Went post-tropical. I am going to discuss Humberto, but I have got a ton of stuff here for Invest 94L tonight. So just bear with me. Allow me to get through the hurricane warning and then Humberto real quick, and then we will jump right into 94L. Currently, 94L has an 80% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 90% chance of development over the next 7 days. And Gabrielle has gone post-tropical as of approximately 1 hour ago. If we take a look at Gabrielle here on visible satellite right before the sun went down, as you could see, the center of circulation is exposed and it is approaching the Azores. So, unfortunately, the time for prep is pretty much over with. As soon as this passes the Azores, I do expect the National Hurricane Center to discontinue advisories on Gabrielle. If we look at Gabrielle, we are currently located at 37.1 north, 31.7 west. It is about 265 miles west-southwest of the Azores. Maximum sustained winds of 70 miles an hour, but don't be deceived. Moving east at 31 miles an hour with a minimum central pressure of 983 millibars. There are currently no changes with this advisory, and a hurricane warning remains in effect for all of the Azores. Now, you may ask, why do we have a hurricane warning in effect when we have currently 70 miles an hour? There's a reason, and we'll get into that just here in a moment. Now, we are expecting hurricane conditions in the areas where the hurricane warned locations are. We are also expecting storm surge in areas of onshore winds, especially with those low-lying coastal regions of the islands. Rainfall, we're looking at 3 to 5 inches of rain, or 75 to 125 millimeters across the central Azores. And that could produce flash flooding within the mountains. Elsewhere, Gabrielle is expected to yield 1 to 3 inches or 25 to 75 millimeters of rain across the western and eastern Azores. And of course, we've still got swells and rough surf there that will be obviously in the Azores and then approaching Western Europe and the areas around Portugal. As you can see with the forecast track, we have the Azores highlighted here in red with the hurricane warnings. As this continues to move on by, it is forecast to come close to Portugal, and maybe, just maybe, we put a return to sender tag on this and send it back to Africa. That would be a first for me, as to where we put return to sender and you send something off of the main development region, we spin it around and send it right back. That would be just classic for a 2025 weird year. Taking a look at the spaghetti plots, as you could see, right, potentially just off the coast of Portugal, down off into parts of Morocco. James, please check please check YouTube. Um, our most likely arrival time of winds are going to be very, very soon here, going into the areas of the Azores and potentially getting out here Saturday evening after sunset into the overnight hours of the extreme southwestern coast of Portugal. Maybe see those tropical storm force winds. Our wind speed probabilities, as you can see, they're not very high for the coastal regions of Portugal. We're running in and about the 10 to 20%, but unfortunately, for the majority of the Azores, they are going to get hit pretty hard, although the eastern Azores here, or the western Azores, I'm sorry, the western Azores have a very low 5 to 10% chance of seeing those tropical storm force winds. So at least maybe one area of the Azores may be spared from significant impacts. Taking a quick look at our discussion, one thing that I do want to point out is that dry air infiltrating, and it has become more linear, and it is losing it's lost its tropical characteristics and is becoming more frontal. If we go a little further, we see here on paragraph number 3, the global models continue to show some increase in Gabrielle's peak winds tonight as the cyclone interacts with an approaching baroclinic system and completes extratropical transition. The NHC intensity forecast favors this solution and shows Gabrielle as a 65 knot post-tropical cyclone moving through the Azores early Friday. Thereafter, steady weakening is forecast as the low becomes vertically stacked and fills over the far eastern Atlantic. The global models are in good agreement on this solution. A hurricane warning remains in effect for the islands of the Azores. The NHC will continue to issue forecasts on Gabrielle as a post-tropical cyclone until the threat to the Azores has ended. As you can see here with the discussion intensity forecast, it is forecast to remain and re-strengthen back up to 75 miles an hour as it is moving through the Azores. So a hurricane warning was definitely still warranted. If now we're going to jump over to Humberto real fast and try to get through this quickly. As you can see, definitely organizing a little bit of compression there on the western side. Doesn't necessarily have the same cloud deck that we see here on the eastern side. A little bit of shear from a trough to its north. Dog hack number 1 scared me half to death, about jumped out of the damn chair. But as we can see here, there is a little bit of shear still impinging on the development of Humberto. But as you can also see, Humberto is still organizing and still forecast to strengthen and eventually become our third major hurricane of the Atlantic 2025 season. So currently, Humberto is located at 21.9 north, 57.0 west, about 470 miles northeast of the northern Leeward Islands. Maximum sustained winds have increased to 60 miles an hour, and it is currently moving northwest at 6 miles an hour, quite slow. Minimum central pressure of 1,000 millibars. There are currently no coastal watches or warnings in effect and no hazards impacting land. If we take a look at the forecast cone, Bermuda is located right here, and it is still recommended for the folks here in Bermuda to keep a very close watch on the progression of Humberto as it is working its way around the Bermuda High. If we take a look at the forecaster's discussion, now this is where things get a little tricky. And it's not because of Humberto. It is Imelda and Humberto. So we'll go over that here in just a minute. The one thing that I do want to point out here is, again, paragraph number 3. The storm has jogged a little to the north today, but the overall motion is northwestward at 5 knots. Humberto remains embedded in weak steering currents on the south side of a narrow and weak subtropical high over the central Atlantic. This pattern should keep the storm moving slowly to the west northwest or northwest during the next day or two. After that time, Humberto is expected to become increasingly steered by a much stronger high over the western Atlantic, which should cause the storm to accelerate. The NHC track forecast is a little slower than the previous one, trending towards the latest consensus and Google DeepMind models. This forecast keeps Humberto over the open central and western subtropical Atlantic during the next several days. And also, it is forecast to become a hurricane within the next 24 hours, a major hurricane within the next 60 hours, and then maintaining that strength, although that is going to be a little questionable if it's going to stop at 120, and then interacting with the trough there at day 5 and a little bit of hostile conditions and starting to weaken a little bit and pull north rather rapidly at that point. If we take a look at our most likely arrival time of tropical storm force winds, as you can see here, maybe for the folks in Bermuda, still keep a watch on this. Your percentages are not that high, but still monitor this. And you would potentially see the winds from Humberto sometime after sunrise on Monday. If we take a look at the percentages, folks here in Bermuda, you're right on that 10, 20, 20, 30 line. So you're probably running at about a 1 in 5 chance, maybe just a little bit, maybe a 1 in 6 chance of seeing sustained tropical storm force winds. But it is highly recommended to monitor the forecast as we continue to go forward with Humberto. All right, now we are going to jump over and we are now going to focus in heavily on Invest 94L. First off, full stop. Flooding potentials are, regardless of development here, and obviously this is just a tagged area of Invest. Flooding potentials for Puerto Rico and Hispaniola, the Turks and Caicos, the southeastern Bahamas, the central Bahamas, the northern Bahamas, all are present as this is going to go by. It doesn't matter whether it's going to develop or not. The flooding threat is there. Full stop. Okay, now, all right, we've had hurricane reconnaissance go out there today. So let's go ahead and take a look. We've got one en route out there headed towards Invest 94L now. We have had other dropson areas, as you can see here with this particular graphic, dropping dropsons all along the northern side of and kind of where this trough feature was and is of Invest 94L. As you can see, they've already dropped 20 from this particular mission, but if I go back, and they already took mission 3 off the board, of course. We had another one this morning that dropped 34 dropsons in on the northern side, north of Hispaniola here. So a lot of new data will be going into the models overnight tonight. All of these we're trying to get, I can tell you right now, they're trying to get as much information into the systems before the 0Z initiation time of the models, which is 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So those 0Z models are going to be critical. As much information as can be put into those between now and when the time that they initialize is going to be critical going forward for those 0Z models. Now we're going to jump into the ensembles, then we're going to jump over to the deterministics. We're going to use the hurricane-specific models. We're basically going to go through just about everything tonight. There's one model that I didn't pull up, and that's because it just debuted for us today, and I've got to kind of go through it and just to make sure. But Yeah, we've got new toys. So what we have here is the Euro ensembles. Now, I am going to zoom way into the southwestern Atlantic here. And I want you to keep a very close watch on exactly, well, that's not really going to do me much good. This one will go better. I want you to keep a very, very close watch on exactly where this may develop and consolidate, and then what the eventual result and track is. So here we are, 48 hours. We don't have much of anything. But please keep an eye on the fact that a lot of this development area is down here closer to Cuba, maybe into the southern part of the Bahamas, not necessarily the Turks and Caicos. So maybe it delays a little bit longer before it develops. Now, as we run this forward, we will notice that there is going to be two distinct camps, and you can already see them developing already. Here comes Humberto. Let's get rid of all the drawings that we had from earlier. Here comes Humberto. Okay? Now, at the same time, you have a camp of quick running storms right here. You also have another camp of storms down here. The difference is anything that develops pretty much in the Bahamas here feels a little bit of a faster flow and is able to be pulled northward quicker. If it is closer to Cuba and drifts out more towards, getting more towards, I forget the name of that, I think that's Andros Island, getting out more towards that area, then it's slower. And that slowness, then, because Humberto is going kind of slow now, it allows Humberto to catch back up. Florida, you are not out of the woods with this yet. As we can see, as it is pulling up and getting further and further, some of the Euro drives it into the southern part of the peninsula. I don't see that being a viable solution due to the frontal boundary and the trough that will be present. I really don't see these being a viable option at all. I see these being a very, very large outlier, and you guys will see that going forward. But we've got a lot of tracks going from about central North Carolina into eastern North Carolina, as this is able to pull up quicker and in front of and north of Humberto. Now, if it is running a little bit slower, there is the opportunity for Humberto to catch this and kind of stop it before it gets to the coastline, and then it'll follow it out. We'll go over all of that here in just a moment when we get to our deterministics. But as you can see, for the most part, we'll take this out 7 days. Wherever it is, once it starts to interact with Humberto, if it gets the chance to interact with Humberto, that pretty much halts it, and then it moves it out in the wake of Humberto and trails it out. The GEFS, as you can see, we do not have anything remotely close to the southern Florida solution with the GEFS. What we do have is quite a bit of this northerly track, so we're going to pull it back down to 48 hours. Notice the difference of where the development is. And for the majority of the GEFS, as you could see, there is quite a few of them that actually make it to the coast of the Carolinas here. And the reason is that it develops a little bit more into the Bahamas and not a little bit closer to the coast of Cuba there. And I'll show all of this as exactly what all is happening here. Now, we are going to compare our legacy models, and if we go out 7 days, as you can see, again, if it's still left out here offshore, it is going to try to follow in the wake of Humberto. So even for the folks there in Bermuda, you got to watch both of these systems, especially if it turns around and does not make it to the coast. There could be a scenario here to where 94L develops into the Bahamas, and kind of impacts there, but never makes it to the southeast coast. That being said, you wait till you see the rainfall totals. It doesn't matter whether we have landfall or not. The rainfall totals are getting ridiculous for portions of the Carolinas. Looking at the AI models, here we are. We're going to go into the 48 hours. Now, notice where this development is. It is a lot closer to Cuba. That makes all the difference in the world because, as you can see, there goes those first few camps, or that first camp of running out ahead of Humberto. But if whatever's left behind, if it doesn't hit that, that river of, quicker winds, then it pulls it out with it. So that's there seems to be kind of two camps on the table right now. So we're going to now take a quick look into the Google DeepMind. In the Google DeepMind, as we continue to run this forward, we're going to get this out, and here we are, 48 or day 3, 72 hours out, or 48 hours. I'm not sure exactly how they do that. No, we are 72 hours out. So yes, okay, I'm reading it correctly. If we take a look at our ensembles, this is potentially optimistic news, because if you notice, the DeepMind again is back here, not up here. And that is all the difference in the world, because if it is in this area, it will gain that speed to get up and away from Humberto, instead of it developing down here to where it is a little slower. That allows Humberto to catch back up. And then at that point, as you can see, a lot of these ensemble members trap it, and it does not allow it to get to the coast, and then we eject it out into the open waters. There are still some that remain headed up towards the Carolinas, but the higher of the probabilities from the Google DeepMind does exit this out and never really gets it to the United States. There's still a great deal of uncertainty. So now we've gone through our ensembles for our legacy models. We've gone through our ensembles for a couple of our AI models. I have another one, but I'll debut that probably tomorrow. Now what we're going to do is we're going to run through the hurricane specific models. So what we have here, first up, we have halves A, and we're going to run this forward. As you can see, there's a huge difference, and this is going to kind of explain what I was talking about. If you look at where halves A tries to get itself organized, here we are 72 hours out. Halves A is quite a bit to the west, but here's the thing. Humberto went a little bit too slow. So halves A ends up pulling up, tries to become, and gets over the Gulf Stream, reaches potential minimal hurricane status right here, wide circulation, and then puts its left turn signal on and heads into northern portions of Florida and coastal Georgia. Onshore flow would create a potentially tremendous amount of surge there for the folks right here into coastal Georgia as this were to make landfall to the south. That's halves A. Now, again, we don't trust just one run, one model. So now we're going to switch over to halves B. Halves B, keep in mind, similar model, little different physics on each one of the different versions. But now as we run this forward, look at where this develops. It is a little bit further away from Cuba. It is to the right of Andros Island. And now, as we run this forward, it's a little faster. And it makes it a little bit further. And halves B has it coming up towards the Charleston area and reaches moderate Category 1 status at this particular frame while still interacting with the Gulf Stream. So that's what halves shows us. So again, we don't trust one model. We take a look at all of them. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the H-Wharf. This is the old H-Wharf. And if we run the H-Wharf forward, there is one frame that disappears right there. As you could see, look where the H-Wharf develops. All right, this is much, much further to the east. And that's going to play a huge difference because that river of, quicker motion opportunity exists a little bit further to the east than it does to the west. And as you could see, in result of that, yes, Humberto tries to catch up. Maybe we're at the very end here. We're at 126 hours. They're almost due east and west. It does look like that Imelda would have more power on it than what we have with Humberto. I do not believe that to be the case unless a specific scenario from Imelda occurs. And that would be the outflow in increased ventilation of Imelda would then become a shearing factor and increase the shear over Humberto and allow Imelda to then become the more dominant feature at that point. Now, would this stop this from getting to the coast? We're right at the very end of the run. It is possible that it does not make landfall, but I mean, honestly, I'll flip it over to the radar. It's not going to matter. There would still be some significant impacts into areas of the Carolinas. Okay, now let's take a look at the HMON. And if we run this one forward, as you can see, it's kind of bouncing all over the place, trying to figure out where the center is going to develop. But look where this one comes together. Now, being that we are here a little bit further to the east, what do you think the solution's going to be? As I run this forward, this one gets out and gets away from Humberto and then comes up more towards the Myrtle Beach area. It does not really get to hurricane intensity. A very strong tropical storm, but not to a hurricane intensity, at least on this particular run. Now, please keep in mind, all of these ensembles, all of these deterministic runs, all of these hurricane-specific models are still trying to predict where and when this is going to develop. Everything of what I'm showing you is highly subject to change and is almost guaranteed to change in some way from run to run. So it is very, very, very highly suggested that you come back, check the National Hurricane Center, check your local National Weather Service office. When we start our special live stream coverage tomorrow, it will be a completely different set of live. We will not cover anything but the threat. All right, now we're going to look into our consensus for Invest 94L. As you can see here, the consensus, this is the TVCN consensus model. It has it coming up more towards central portions of South Carolina with a trend more and more to the left and to the west. We're going to have to wait and see if this trend continues or does it finally stop. We've got two located in a similar area. We'd like to have 3 or 4 runs in that same area. That way it equates to 18 to 24 hours worth of data that is kind of holding similar. But a great deal of uncertainty still remains. Now, as far as the consensus intensity, again, a 60 knot, 70 mile an hour strong tropical storm. The consensus for the IVCN does not achieve hurricane strength. We compare that to the HCCA. This is a little different because, as you can see here, the track really hasn't shifted much over the last 3 runs. We had the one that went this way. Then we get one that comes up and stalls out right here. Now we've got one that wants to come up and stall here and then exit, as it was able to make it to the coast just barely before Humberto put the brakes on it and then it chased it out. So there is a lot of uncertainty, and it's honestly, its development location, it's going to be huge. That's what is going to make all of the difference in the world for this, folks. If we take a look at its intensity, again, it is in agreement with the IVCN as a strong tropical storm and not achieving hurricane status. But this, again, folks, all of this is highly subject to change. All of it. Now, we're going to run real quick through the deterministic and show that the deterministic, the GFS, has it kind of rounding the upper level low that would be located over the southeastern United States. We do not have any data with the Euro. The UK Met wants to bring it up and get it into the northern Bahamas. And as far as the CMC is concerned, which is not very reliable for tropical cyclones, it draws it well out. I'm not sold on the CMC and any of their solutions in the slightest when it comes to tropical cyclones. If we take a look at TC Coamps also rotates this in and around the Savannah area. Again, all of these models are trying to predict where this is going to develop and when. So please do not lock in on one particular solution. If it happens to be, like the one that may be showing a threat to your area, don't hyper focus on that. We've still got a lot of uncertainty that we've got to get through. So now we're going to work over to our global deterministic runs. We have our Euro on the left and our GFS on the right. We have these graphics represent our 850 millibar cyclonic vorticity. This is graphics to measure and highlight areas of spin approximately 1 mile above the ocean surface. And this is going to show pretty much everything that we need, that we've been talking about. So what we have here, we will set our bearings here real quick. And we have Invest 94L right here. We have Humberto. We've got Gabrielle, but we're not going to, that's obvious. Impacts are there. So we've got our two areas of interest highlighted, and I'm going to put a spot right here with this high pressure. And I'm going to put through that line. Humberto has to travel south or along this 156 line. All right, it's not going to go through it. It can erode it and kind of move it, ebb it back and forth on the southern side, but it's not going through this 156 line. All right, it's not. So, that almost looks like a fish. I'm not going to draw it out, but it does. And then let me put my high right here. So the closer that it gets to this edge, the more the winds move. The further away from the edge, the slower the winds move. So if it develops closer to that 156 line, it's forecast to move quicker along the line and keep enough distance from Humberto to allow it to reach the coast. That's the key. That's the key to this whole puzzle right now, is where does this develop? So as I run this forward, we will note here in 48 hours, both the Euro and the GFS both show the southeastern Bahamas, Turks and Caicos region, where consolidation takes place, very, very close to that 156 line, and an area to where the winds at that lower level are moving just a little bit faster. And that little bit faster makes all the difference in the world, because as we run this forward, as you could see here in day 4, the Euro and the GFS no longer have an east to west motion, to where then Humberto would then imply a force like this, and then Imelda would apply a force like that. They're not that way. As you can see, it is much different. And at this point, if we were going to try to get some influence from Humberto onto Imelda, exactly what we said is that Humberto would then rotate around, but because of the fact that it is still on the southern side, Imelda would pretty much stop almost dead in its tracks. Like Humberto pulled the emergency brake on it and said, no further. But because of the fact that it is still far enough out and away from it, you do not see the real true binary connection. There is some influence, but the upper level low was closer over the southeastern United States. That became the dominant feature. That is what is turning what would be Imelda back in towards land. That's what's happening. All right, so let's take a look at our humidity values. So here we have our 500 millibar on the top. That is approximately 3.5 miles above the ocean surface. We have our 700 millibar on the bottom. That is approximately 2 miles above the ocean surface. Again, Euro on the left, GFS on the right. Our browns represent our dry air. Our greens and blues represent our moist air. The key for this one is, where does this dry air sit and where does the moisture go? And I've got some bad news for the folks here in the Carolinas. So as we continue to run this forward, we know when we get out to about 48 hours from looking at our quote-unquote seeds map, we have consolidation and potential development of Imelda at that time. So as we can see, we have this. We're going to stop here to get our bearings. We've got what would be Imelda there, Humberto there. We have our low, our upper level low right there. We have our upper level low right there. We have one here and one there. As this, well, in that upper level low, this might be a little bit further to the left there. So it is really back there. Like I said, a little bit to the left. So now, as we continue to run this forward, I really want folks here into Florida to pay attention here, and I'm going to bring this to the 96-hour mark. Maybe we'll go 72. If you look, there is that trough protecting the majority of Florida. Right? You see it right here with all that dry air. This is why, with the flow coming out of the southwest like this in response to that trough, this is why some of those ensembles showing the Euro crossing the state, no, that's not going to happen because of this southwesterly flow. Now, the thing is that as I continue to run this forward, watch the moisture into the Carolinas. Boom. Right there. Here we are, day 4, getting into day 5, and we've got an extreme amount of tropical moisture that would be moving in. An extreme amount. So, regardless of an intensity of the system, obviously a more intense system would bring more significant impacts. But even a low-grade system is going to potentially bring significant impacts. Now, hopefully what we're looking at here today changes by tomorrow. We get a very, very well-defined solution that comes from some of the modeling. We've got an organized center that is getting there that the models can lock into. Maybe, hopefully. Doubtful, but we could try to be optimistic on this. The rainfall totals are getting absolutely insane. And we're going to go over that as soon as we take a look at our deep layer wind shear. Excuse me. These two graphics, Euro on the left and the GFS on the right, this represents our, again, deep layer wind shear. This is looking at the atmosphere from approximately 5,000 feet above the ocean surface all the way up to 40,000 feet above the ocean surface. So we're looking at a large area and where most of the world's weather is contained within that 5,000 to 40,000 foot area. What we're looking for is the wind speed and change with height. Now, as we get out to the 48-hour mark, again, we noted that we have our seed developing. Let me get my purple back here so we can see it compared to this red. So we've got our low here, low pressure here. We've got Invest 94L trying to develop there. Invest 94L trying to develop there. Humberto right there. Humberto right there. If you look at the GFS, we have some shear that is coming across the Gulf. And the Euro has some shear, but it's kind of riding up this way. There's a little bit of shear coming down this way, but it's not a lot. So now that we've got our bearings, let's run this forward, and we're going to get it to day 2, or day 3, 72 hours. This is why I'm saying that I don't really necessarily trust the Euro and those ensembles that showed it coming across southern Florida. No way. Because the low pressure is here. You have all of this flow coming out this way. There is no way, unless this high pressure just drives this thing and becomes abnormally strong, and there's no erosion from this trough whatsoever, which, I mean, let's be realistic here, folks. Do you think that that's going to, not fight off that high pressure and erode it a little bit? Well, Humberto is out there as well. So that's also going to be an influence on the Bermuda High. That being said, it is this point in the forecast to where I have some concern, because you're going to get the proximity of what would be Imelda here. You've got the trough trying to run all of the air out this way, but you're ventilating the storm. If you also look here, we've got outflow coming off of Imelda like this. You've got the winds coming around from Humberto like this, and you're getting a very, very steady line of where those two air masses collide. If we line this up here with the GFS, we have the low there with Imelda. We have a potential ventilation opportunity here. We also have Humberto here. The flow around Imelda coming out and off and down. And then maybe some shear onto Humberto as well. Maybe. Might not be enough, because by that time, Humberto's probably going to be quite intense and be able to fight off that shear, especially if it has an inner eye wall and a solid closed core around it. Now, as we continue to run this forward, you will see that that low pressure right here, we're just going to go, let's go right there. That'd be enough. 114 shows it just as clear as we could get it. We have the low pressure right here. This is what was responsible for rotating it back in. Humberto did not get the opportunity to put all of its influence on it, and it is headed out that way shortly. Same thing goes here. We've got the upper level low right here, rotating in like that, and Humberto was too slow and not fast enough to be able to catch up to it and put the brakes on it. So, as of tonight, it is highly recommended for the folks here into the East Coast, especially from about, I'd say maybe depending on where it develops. Now, if it develops on the other way and gets kind of slow, it could kind of take its sweet time trying to get up the east coast of Florida. So everybody on the east coast of Florida, coast or through Georgia, and the Carolinas and Virginia, please monitor the progress of Invest 94L very, very closely. Our rainfall. Now, this is going to look kind of confusing to folks. I have the mid-Atlantic states on the top and the southeastern United States on the bottom. I have the listen to me. I have the NOAA blend of models on the left-hand column, and I have the WPC precipitation forecast here on the right-hand column. And yes, I could probably just pull up the entire United States and it would be a hell of a lot clearer, but I like to be difficult sometimes with myself. And if we run this out 120 hours, you know what? This kind of sucks, so we can't see anything. So I am going to go ahead and blow it up, and we'll just duplicate it and pull up the other graphic here real quick. Running it out 120 hours. I've got 5 inches in quite a few spots here. Locally, I've got the maximum total here on the NOAA blend of models is going to be 8.2 inches. On the WPC, we are looking at 8.86 inches. Now, those values are offshore, but please don't be fooled, because I've got a widespread 4 to 6 inches across the majority of North Carolina and South Carolina. So this could definitely lead to points of flash flooding. And if I run this forward a little bit more and we get it out to 168, we don't really get a lot of change from day 5 to day 7. But if this were to grab a hold and rotate in, we may see some considerable amounts here. What really, really concerns me is this little strip of higher rainfall totals showing up on both models. That's the mountains. They don't need it. And especially now, coming up on the anniversary of Helene and all the catastrophic flooding and loss of life that has taken place up there last year. They damn sure don't need this. But unfortunately, Mother Nature is not so forgiving. And hopefully we can get some changes in this showing that, hey, it's not going to make it to the coastline. It's going to move slower. It's going to develop a little bit further away from that little wind flow. And it's not really going to have the opportunity to threaten anybody. Now, I don't know if Sean, it's too early to say exactly whether we're going to have a landfall or not. Thank you, Jonathan, for the North Carolina Emergency Management. If you guys got any questions, I don't see Jacob. I pulled this up for him tonight regarding from last night. Last night's question. I did promise that I was going to pull up the wave action. This is the Euro significant wave height. Now, again, regardless of development, we're still going to get impacts. And watch what happens with our significant wave height with the Euro. Now, we do know that the Euro makes landfall there into the southeastern United States. We're at 120. But as you can see, we really didn't get that much wave action. Yeah, there's definitely some. But watch what Humberto does when it gets right there. This is day 6. And this is the part that is kind of concerning, because we have a complete onshore flow right here, and we're getting into what, 12 foot, 10, 12 foot, 14 foot waves, and that's onshore, pointed almost directly at onshore, with the onshore winds coming around the storm as well. Jacob, if you do hear this, sir, I would definitely check with your local area as far as the waves are concerned, this would be valid for Wednesday morning, sir. So you could see some, I would definitely expect small craft advisory, no doubt about that. Maybe a little bit higher of an advisory being issued locally due to the influence of the tropical systems. All right, now we're going to jump out here and we're going to show everybody real quick on Earthnall that yes, Earthnall is showing Invest 94L having a little bit more of a cohesive mid-level circulation, trying to peak off the winds to the northern side. The winds to the northern side of Hispaniola have definitely been moving a lot quicker than what we've had down here to the south of Hispaniola throughout the day. Now, the one thing, if you guys remember that little channel of air that I was talking about, if you look here, it's that channel. It's this higher wind speed right here. Now, this is the GFS solution here on Earthnall. We're at the 700 millibar level. This is approximately 2 miles above the ocean surface. We are going to run this forward. Here we are, 24 hours in advance. And as you could see, again, got that little channel right here. But that channel doesn't exist down here. So, due to the proximity of Humberto, you're not allowing this ridge to build like this. All right, so this is going to be taking out this little nub right here. That's going to try to flatten out. So if Humberto is going to be pushing back on this just a little bit, and if Imelda gets out here, it's not going to have that quick flow, and especially getting involved in with the air from the trough as well. So I'm going to run this forward another 24 hours, and again, we're at the 700 millibar level, and as you could see, it is getting involved in that channel. If it is away from this channel, it is not necessarily compressing this part of the high pressure ridge, it's going to move slower. And if it is a little bit further to the left, say if it's over here, see this high pressure ridge right here? You see how that is trying to imply a little bit of a wind flow like this? Well, if Humberto gets close enough, that's what's going to cancel out the winds. Now, you still see that the trough is here. The Euro, some of those Euro ensembles wants to put that high way up here. And it's completely lost its mind. I'm not going to lie to you. It's totally lost its mind. So that's kind of what we're looking at here tonight. Again, I'll be here tomorrow morning to go over everything. And if y'all have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'll pull up some information and some data. If you guys need localized information, we'll get it directly from the National Weather Service office. Just please put a zip code in the chat, and our team members will then pin it for me, and then I will go through and get it all taken care of. All right. Last but not least, let's take a look at our dust model, because there is still a little bit of influence of the dust. That is not going to be much. And then, so not much. All right. Our quick look at our Madden-Julian oscillation forecast. The ensembles wants to bring it back out maybe towards phase 2, and so does the GFS as well. So this would potentially enhance some thunderstorm and shower activity over the African continent. But as far as the main development region and those Cabo Verde storms coming off of Western Africa, if they do develop over the tropical Atlantic, they're not going to make it this far to the west at this time of year. What we have to watch for are the undeveloped waves that slip further to the west and then start to act like what we see with 94L. All right, we still have a great deal of the season to go, folks. We are definitely not over with. We're not. We've still got a good, decent amount, and as evident with the potential of having another name storm out there with a third major hurricane of the season, which would be wild because if Humberto achieves hurricane status, then that means that any hurricane that we've had this year, we're going to be 3-0. We're not going to have any regular hurricanes. We're going to have 3 hurricanes and 3 majors. All developed hurricanes would then achieve major hurricane status. I don't want what would eventually be Imelda to even attempt to just stay away from the hurricane status. That's fine. Taking a look here at the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook. Again, we show this every night. We are definitely not done with hurricane season. Week 2 valid for the first week of October. Areas out here into the main development region, which we shouldn't have to watch too much. But getting into week 3, the second week of October, we may have to watch back down here for the Western Caribbean and the Southern Gulf for the development of a Central American gyre. All right, jumping out to the Eastern Pacific, we have Narda. Narda is a hurricane, as you can see here, located out here into the middle of nowhere. It is currently located at 16.2 north, 118.0 west. We're not even going to worry about where it's at. Its current maximum sustained winds of 90 miles an hour, moving west at 16 miles an hour with a minimum central pressure of 980 millibars. There are no coastal watches or warnings in effect, nor will there ever be. And the surf from the obviously generated and pulsing outward from the hurricane could impact the areas there into Southern California and the Baja Peninsula and southern Mexico. Well, really southwestern Mexico. If we take a look at the forecast cone, there you go. It's in the middle of nowhere, not affecting anybody. It is forecast to become post-tropical, as you can see here, 19.1, 70 miles an hour. Hits that 20-degree latitude line, starts the weekend, and then post-tropical. Poof. Goodbye. Yeah. Narda's not much more than just stuff to talk about here. I forgot to flip this over because I was completely engulfed into 94L this afternoon. But again, looking at the Euro, pulls up north of 20, poof. We'll run this over into the Eastern Pacific, pulls north of 20, poof. And we will flip this over to the Eastern Pacific, run it out 7 days, even 10 days, pulls north of 20, poof. Now, jumping out to the Western Pacific, Neoguri is still on the board, and Booyale, I believe that's how you pronounce that. If I remember correctly from yesterday, this did achieve typhoon status from Pagasa. The Joint Typhoon Warning Center, as you could see, has it at 55 knots. The Pagasa did name it a typhoon prior to landfall. It's an O name storm with Pagasa, like Punga or something like that. It's really different name. But as we could see, forecast to move across the central portions of the Philippines, emerging into the South China Sea, and then working its way more towards Vietnam, and is expected to reattain typhoon status on its track across the South China Sea. And if we look at Neoguri, this damn thing don't want to die. It is... Now, I've got to draw this track because this has been just one for the ages here. All right, we've come up, and then we're back around, and then we did this number, and then we're going to go out that way. That's its current track. As you can see, still maintaining a good, healthy tropical storm strength and is forecast to intensify and then become back to a typhoon as it is moving out further and further. And it's wild because it is this line right here, that line right there, that's 40 degrees north. And you're going to be dealing with a typhoon north of 40. Fun times in the Western Pacific this year. 2025 has been weird. Very, very weird. All right, that's what I've got. Oh, yeah, Lori. Okay, we've got a zip code. All right, let's see here. 27105. All right, and tomorrow, come tomorrow, I will have the IDSS prototype hourly forecast there, pulled up for everybody. Let's see, rain, and quite a bit. You have quite a bit of rainfall in your forecast as far as its percentages are concerned. Me go through and take a look. We know that 5 days, so let's see. Monday, precipitation 60%. So, yeah, we'll have to, we'll be keeping a very close watch on it. And again, we really need this to be developed and have a cohesive center that the models can then hone in on, and not trying to predict whether this is going to be developing more towards Cuba, whether it's going to be developing early, later, faster, slower, left, right, up, down, inside, out. It's crazy right now, but yeah, I'll definitely have the hourly forecast up for everybody in the morning. It's a prototype website that is from the National Weather Service. I have to transfer it over from, maybe. Did I keep it? I put it up here? Oh, certain I did. Hold on. I gotta check, yep, I damn sure did. All right. Let's see here. I swear this is the best website that the National Weather Service office ever put out. Come on. Load it in for me. Are you? Are you gonna do it? It's not gonna do it. That's just that's just the internet and the world and Mother Nature telling me that we're not going to load it tonight and we're going to wait till tomorrow, like you told everybody that you were going to. So, all right, everybody, I am going to go ahead and sign off here tonight. I will be back again. Special live stream coverages and increased live stream coverage begins tomorrow. I will be back live tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 10 a.m. Central Daylight, to go over the latest of what we have. If we have a potential tropical cyclone bulletin and advisory out, which I do expect that to come, whether we have development or not. If we don't have a MELDA, we're going to get a PTC because watches need to be issued. So that's for certain. The threat is there, and so are we. So with that, everybody, have a wonderful evening, and I'll talk to you in the morning tomorrow.